Hi, everybody. This is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, Stories of the Supernatural. And I hope you enjoy this new show, whether you're viewing it on the internet or listening to a podcast version of the episode. I do want to thank you for being part of my audience. You can also find links to videos or podcasts on miamighostchronicles.com, as well as where you can submit your story about any eerie experiences you've had, which I would love to hear about. Just go to the Submit Your Story tab. Please subscribe to our channel so that you receive notification of when we release a new show. And find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. This is where I usually live stream and where I give you a behind-the-scenes look at locations where new episodes are being filmed at. I also tell you about all the interesting guests that will be appearing soon on Stories of the Supernatural. I hope you enjoy the show, and I think you are all wonderful. Hi, everybody. This is Marlene with Miami Ghost Chronicles, Stories of the Supernatural. How is everybody doing today? I'm doing very, very well. And of course, one of those reasons is that I have a guest that works in the field of the paranormal. His name is Logan Corelli, and he has over 17 years of experience investigating haunted locations across America. He holds a PhD in parapsychology as well as a doctorate in metaphysics from the University of Metaphysical Sciences, and he also holds a number of certifications in paranormal study. He's appeared on Animal Planet's The Haunted and the film Ghosts and Legends of Oklahoma. He's also been featured in newspaper and magazine feature stories. Logan regularly organizes paranormal conferences, conventions, and fundraisers to help educate and support the paranormal research community. He is also the author of the book Haunted Heart of America. So how are you doing today, Logan?
I'm great. I appreciate you talking to me today.
Oh, absolutely. It is my pleasure. My pleasure, totally. And what I'm going to do, Logan, is I'm going to ask you what I ask all my guests at the beginning is, how did you get involved with the paranormal? Did you have an experience as a child? Did something happen to you when you were an adult? How did that come about?
Well, it actually first started when I was a child, and that was kind of the opening for the book. And that was, I kind of wanted my readers to get kind of familiar with what kind of pointed me in the right direction of investigating the paranormal. And like a lot of people, the curiosity is always there, and, the excitement and wanting to discover the unknown and things
Sure.
like that. So all of that was there, but I'd say my childhood experience probably pushed me the hardest towards looking into ghosts and spirits and stories. And, I always found myself growing up watching the TV shows and anything that had anything to do with the paranormal, the unknown, I was always really interested in. But my childhood experience actually had happened when I was 8, and
Okay.
My mother and a family friend was coming back from vacation, which we took regularly, our family vacation for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided to stop at this lodge, this hotel that we had never stayed at before, and my mother thought it would be interesting to give it a try, and she'd heard people that had stayed there before and whatever.
Okay.
And really, everything that kind of took place that night, by the time that we had left, really was traumatizing, especially for an 8-year-old who knew absolutely nothing about the paranormal. So, I found myself terrified and yet, later on very curious as to, what the cause of that was. Was it real? What was it? And, as I went through school and became an adult, I decided that I was tired of wondering, and I wanted to go out and actually start finding answers and doing investigating and things like that. So I started officially in January of 2000, and I've been going ever since.
Okay. So I need to ask you, what was it? Because you made a very significant description, which was traumatic, which means it wasn't like, it sounds more than, oh, we heard a knock on the wall. It sounds like it was something significant. What happened?
It was very significant. And kind of the way it started was I was the first person to have an experience. And I'll kind of go into that into a second.
Okay.
And, my mother and her friend we all ended up having experiences together. And I don't know if I had my experience first just because I happened to be in that specific location, or if I was being targeted, or, I don't know. But what had happened was we went through and did the daily thing, the swimming and, the activities and whatever. And we got to where the evening was coming around. We wanted to retire for the night and get in our room and whatever. And I was kind of the errand boy. So anything that needed to be done, of course, they're going to send the kid, right?
Right.
So they said, hey, our ice bucket is empty. Go down and get us some ice. So I didn't think anything about it. Something I'd done numerous times. And, you don't expect something, that's going to happen to you or whatever. And so I got in, I got the bucket, and I headed off down the hall. And where we were, our room was on the other end of where I had to walk there.
Right. So you were, in other words, it was a distance to go and get the ice.
Oh yeah, it was a long walk down the hallway. It was over by from what I remember, the stairwell door, and I had to, make that walk all the way back once I had got the ice. But once I had gotten the ice, I had turned and I had started to walk away, and something had got my attention to the point to where I had to turn back and look to see if somebody was there. And when I had turned back and looked, I didn't see someone standing in the hallway. The door was closed to the stairs and everything appeared normal. Mm-hmm. But I had noticed on the right, the wall, there was a shadow silhouette of a person that was on the wall. And, for me, I refer to it as a man because, it was very tall. You could see, features of a nose and, legs and all of that stuff. And so, I took a moment to kind of figure out what it was. I mean, at that time it wasn't moving. It was just kind of like a shadow, and I could see my own. And so, without, taking a lot of time to really analyze the situation, I just decided I was going to turn around and walk back to the room.
Okay.
So I turn around and I start to walk back, and I looked over my shoulder and I noticed the shadow starts walking. Okay. And this was after I had already taken a few steps. So this is now following me.
Oh.
And again, I see nobody in the hall with me. And at this point, I know enough to where I know something's going on. This isn't right. This isn't normal. But my instinct said, keep going, try and ignore it, whatever. I start walking a little faster, and it kind of starts getting a little faster. And eventually, I guess I had gotten so afraid that I started running. I just broke out and ran. And I ran, which seemed like forever. And I got to our door, and I threw the ice down on the floor, and the ice went everywhere. And I'm banging on the door, help! Let me in! Something's out here. And
wow.
It seemed like an eternity
of course,
for my mother to come to get to the door. So I remember I backed up, and I see this coming down the hall, and I'm back against the door, and I see this thing when it gets directly even with me and the door, it just disintegrates, just like
my
a
God.
cloud of smoke, and it's gone. And I'm like, shaking and stuff, and the door opens, and I fall into the doorway, and my mother's standing there, and she sees the ice, and she sees me, and she's, what's going on? And she's looking out the hall, and, she's thinking someone's trying to
Right,
get me,
right.
And so I get in the hall, and, I didn't bother with the ice. I just kind of left it there.
You were just like, forget the ice.
I kind of collect myself, and, we're all in the room, and it's safe, and, it's quiet and whatever. And she says to me, what happened? And I was trying to explain to her, I went and got the ice. I saw this what, I thought it was a man, and nobody was there. And, I'm telling her the story, and, she's kind of playing it out as, I was scaring myself, and maybe I saw something that just wasn't there. And so she didn't put a lot of, she didn't think it was really that big a deal at that point.
It was more like overactive imagination on your part.
Right. I'm a kid. What do I know? So, and, at that time, people just didn't have experiences like that. But I did. So, I come in, I told her, I'm like, you go get the ice if you want the ice. I'm not going back down there. So, she went and got the ice and then come back. And one of the things that I had remember, and I don't think I actually put this in the book, was when we were there, we had stayed on the 4th floor of the building. And the 5th floor above us, which was the top floor, was being renovated, or it was under construction, or they were doing work on it.
Okay.
So, all during the day, we're hearing these, bangs and saws and drills and, all these people, up there working on the place.
Okay.
And it didn't going to be a big deal to us. And but then, it started getting evening. And she's kind of like, we're going to be working up there, we don't want to be, midnight and they're still, banging around or whatever. So,
right.
She had called the desk and she said, hey, I'm not trying to cause a problem, but I'd like to know what time these guys are going to stop working, because, are they, they have a time, it's getting late. And the whoever was on the front desk had told my mother that, look, they leave at 5 o'clock. Nobody does any work at night up there. They leave the site and whatever. So nobody's up there.
And what time was it when she called? In other words, that you guys were still hearing construction work going on.
Right. We were hearing the bangs and the knocks and the noises, which we had assumed was the construction workers.
Right.
So they told her, look, nobody's there. She said, hey, you may want to send some people up there because we're still hearing the noises. I don't know if they're working late or someone's messing with your stuff or whatever.
Okay.
So that kind of, that was over. She had called. And sometime later, she had called again. And she said, hey, I called about the noises upstairs. Did you talk to the people or whatever? And from what she had told us, the lady said, ma'am, we sent our security personnel up there. It's no one's up there. It's dark. It's quiet. There's nothing. And she said, well, come into our room. It ain't quiet. There's noises and things going on. So no one ever came to the room, and that was kind of like dropped. Mm-hmm. So a little later on, we start hearing knocks at the door. It was like 3 knocks. It's like knock, knock, knock. And, the one other thing I remember about being there and even in the hall and on the floor was I never saw another guest on that floor. Oh. I never saw anybody go into the room. I never heard neighbors. I never heard anybody that would indicate there was another guest on the floor. There could have been. Maybe I just never saw them. But I didn't remember anyone, while we were staying there on the floor that I can remember. But we hear these knocks. So, my mother was always really cautious, and looking to see who it is. Who is it? No answer. Goes away. Well, 10, 15 minutes, knock, knock, knock. Same series of knocks. And she looks out. She doesn't see anything. And this had happened a couple of times. And she even went as far as to, chain the door and open the door and look, hello, is someone out, that type of thing. No answer, nobody, whatever.
Right.
So after it happens a series of times, she's convinced that it's a kid, and she's like, this has got to be some kid messing with us, knocking and running off and whatever. And, she's trying to rationalize, all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure,
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get behind the door, and I'm going to scare them. The next time they knock on the door, I'm going to be waiting for them. So she waits at the door, and sure enough, and the knocks were getting closer in time. So, it was 15 minutes, then it was 10 minutes, then it was like 5 minutes. So it was getting a lot closer from the knocks. And I remember the knocks came as expected, and she flung open the door, and she got out, and nobody was there.
Oh, my
and I'm
God.
talking about a series of seconds.
Right.
So even if someone was there, they didn't even have time to get in a room.
Right.
They didn't have time. I mean, if someone had held the door open and, they were right next door to us,
mm-hmm.
there was not enough time for someone to do that. So she's puzzled. And I remember she backed up into the door and backed up into the room, and she's got her hand on the door holding it open. So what was that? And all of a sudden, while her hand is still on the door, bam, 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 right on the door, while she's holding it. And she screams.
You mean she's holding the door open?
She's holding the door.
Oh,
and
God.
Bang, not knock, bang, like with a fist. And, she screams, and she slams the door, and she locks it, and she gets her luggage and the chair, and barricades the door, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, now we're trapped in here with whatever it is, and we can't go out. And, we all kind of there was the three of us.
Okay.
We kind of got together in a little huddle, and we backed up to where the beds were, and all of a sudden, the TV, we had a small little TV with a turn knob,
Okay.
because this was back in the 80s. They didn't. I mean, they had them, but
Right.
the room we were in didn't have remotes and stuff like that. So it was a simple little television, and the TV kicked on its own.
Oh.
And I remember the screen was bright red. There was no picture. There was
God.
It was just a bright red. And there was a man that was laughing.
What?
And it wasn't like a sinister, ha 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 type of laugh. It was just like a man was laughing. Like he was laughing at us.
Jeez.
And my mother is like, oh my God, it's laughing. And, she was like, what do we do? And because, now it's getting to the point to where it's we feel like it's dangerous or something.
Sure.
We don't know what's going on. So we go unplug the TV, right? Kill the power. Go up to unplug it, TV goes off. So we're sitting there, and we kind of take a step back into the room. And you remember how I told you those sounds were going on, the knocks, and the bangs,
Right.
and all of that stuff? Well, after the TV event, it got very quiet and very still. And that was eerie in itself because,
Sure.
it was almost like anticipation for something,
Mm-hmm.
but we didn't know what was going to happen next, and we're barricaded in the room. Can't just leave. I guess we could, but anyway, so we started hearing this howling sound, and it was like wind.
Oh my
And it had picked up, and we this was in Oklahoma, so when we hear winds like that, we think tornado,
Right.
danger. And we had our, the window was open, not open, but the blinds. We could see outside. No trees were moving. There was no nothing blowing around, but it was from within the room itself. So we we're just confused as to what this is. Well, the wind had picked up so fierce that the actual glass from the window was shaking.
What?
It was like rattling. And, you know, I can't tell you exactly how long that lasted. I mean, to me, it seemed like forever, but I don't think it was really that long. And then stopped.
Right.
Nothing. Everything is still in quiet again. Nothing's going on. And then probably the craziest thing out of all of that started to happen. And what had happened was there was a patch on that window that looked as if it was fogging up, or someone was breathing on it.
Oh my
okay?
God! Don't say that.
And it's a section of the window. Okay. The weird thing about it is, you could clearly see it was coming from outside.
And you're up on a fourth floor.
Nobody was outside. Right. Nobody was outside the window. And we started seeing like these indentions in this in this fog. It would disappear and reappear, and I don't know if it was like fingers or hands or what it was, but we could see there was like these little indentions. And then the whole thing that topped it off, we were all sitting there, and it came up and it said, "You're dead."
What?
And we left. "You're dead." And we got the stuff, and we ran, and I have never checked out and left.
Let me ask you, and did your mom, I know you were a kid, did your mom ever get the feeling like these people knew what was going on, but were just like playing like, oh, we don't know?
Well, I think really, I don't know so much she felt like they knew what was going on, but I think people had reported things before.
Right.
And maybe they just weren't telling nobody, maybe.
Okay.
And over the years, when we had talked about that, she always, had, theories as to what it could have been and, what it was, but none of us really knew. And the person that was with us, we don't talk to them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But, me and my mother still talk about that place. And, unfortunately, it's been demolished since. But,
it has? The place was demolished? Wow.
Yeah. I went there back in 2008 or 7, 8, whenever it was before it was tore down. And I tried to get them to let me in there because I said, look, I could go into the whole event, but there's something that happened in there, and I'm not just convinced it was me.
Right.
And, later on when I'm meeting people and coworkers and colleagues and all these people, I would tell that story, and some of them would say, we stayed there before and we heard noises, or we felt something in certain areas or whatever.
Okay.
So I know it wasn't just us. I know that, it wasn't like we brought something there or
right.
That type of a thing. But that kind of started a chain reaction.
And how old was the place? Did you ever find out how old it had been standing there?
Well, I don't know specifically. I tried to do some back research on it,
right.
And unfortunately there's not a lot online that I could find. But I do know that it's been there for a while because I had some grandparents that had a wedding anniversary there.
Okay.
So I'd say it was there at least 50 years.
Right, and a lot of things happen in places like that,
Yeah, and this place was close to a lake.
Okay.
And, it was in, I was told it was in native land.
Okay.
So everyone's always saying, it could have been on a sacred burial ground or
right.
It could have been this, it could have been that or whatever. And, from what I had heard, they were tearing the building down to actually build a casino on top of it.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's happened or not, but it would be interesting to,
absolutely.
if they did.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
might get some weird things going on with no clue whatsoever, like where it came from. Oh my God.
Exactly. you know.
Yeah, I can see why you said that you were traumatized. I get it. Now I understand.
Yeah. And it was really weird because, you know, during the daytime when, you know, none of that stuff happened. Right. And I don't know if maybe we were put on that floor for a reason. Maybe no one else would ever stay on that floor.
Right.
Maybe there just wasn't enough guests. I don't know. And I can't say for sure one way or the other. But what I can tell you is that something was there and something was really going on. And, you know, it took me, you know, 10 years to want to go back there again.
Right.
But I would have, you know, I would have gone back and you know, investigated it and see if I could, and that probably wouldn't have happened again. But I would like to at least come away saying that, you know, there was something paranormal happening there.
Right. Or that you did some type of research and you said, okay, you know, I found that whatever incident took place. Or, well, you also said that you already had some other people saying that they had some type of, they had heard noises, but it sounds like you, when you were there with your mom, you guys got the full blast. It was like everything.
Yeah, you know, the people that I had talked to about their experiences and what they experienced, it was never really frightening. You know, they always said that, from what I could remember, you know, oh, we heard noises or we felt this, or, you know, comparable to what we went through. But, you know, they had gone back. You know, it wasn't something that...
Right, that stopped them from saying, man, we'll never go back there again.
Yeah, and, you know, whether that was done to keep us from coming back, I don't know. You know, we were never really disruptive or, you know, we never did anything to really cause problems in the hotel.
But you know what? Sometimes it's all in the timing. You know that some people go and if the timing's all wrong, nothing happens, and then somebody's there at the right time, which it sounds like you guys were right, as in right to witness this.
Oh, we were in the middle of a hurricane, spiritual hurricane, you know.
And it doesn't sound like a residual. It sounded like an intelligent haunting.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I could only imagine if I had some kind of recording equipment going when that was going on. There's no telling what voices would have come through.
Oh, sure.
Or if we'd have stayed the night. I mean, you know, it could have escalated. Maybe when we left, something else happened. I can't say one way or the other for that, but I know there was no way any of us was going to stay there. Not after it, you know, pretty much said we were dead.
Well, let me tell you something. That part where you're describing that this thing is pacing you and running after you from that ice machine, oh my God. That has got to be, no wonder, as a kid, what an experience. Right. So,
you know, at that age, there's still the monster in the closet, and
right.
You know, you don't really know about what the possibilities. If that happened to me today, I'd probably run right for it. You know,
right? Well, it's different. You know, of course, you were a child, and you weren't. It's not like you were going out there. You were just going to go get some ice and.
Right, innocence.
Yeah, right, innocence. It's different when you're, first of all, when you're an adult, and number two, when you're doing it on purpose, hoping that you're going to stumble across something like this. And so, you fast forward, you grow up here. You had this experience, which, by the way, what an experience! And what happened? You joined a group, you formed your own group, or did you have another experience as an adult?
Well, I didn't really form a group right away. When I first started going out and investigating, I was either by myself or with a friend, and we were mainly doing like cemeteries and abandoned places. And we, you know, back then here where we were, there wasn't a large network of investigators and people that were really, you know, working together and you know, somewhere that you could mentor with. So, you know, I was on my own for a few years, and then I slowed down a little bit, and then in 2004, I met a colleague, and he actually convinced me that you know, I needed to start a team, and we needed to kind of get more in depth with it and invest in some equipment and try to branch out and get into some of the places because, there was a lot of stories around, you say looking for ghosts or haunted places, and it was like, oh, well, I heard about this place and this place. So there was always like the referrals, but no way that we knew how to really get into them at that time. So they were kind of like on the list, but we had just getting started. And so we got started and we started going around, and a couple of our first investigations as a team is documented in the book for several places. And then I got hooked up with another group, and that was when I probably had my most profound adult experience that absolutely 100% convinced me that this was legitimate. If I ever had any doubt in my mind of the paranormal, it went away. When I had this experience, and it was actually in a hospital, and it is documented in my book.
Oh my God! Of course, a hospital. There you go. God, those are hotbeds more than people realize.
When I saw that building for the first time, I had chills and I was excited, and I told my colleague, I said, I am going to get into that building. I said, I don't know what I've got to do or when it's going to happen, but I'm going to get inside that building. It was a beautiful, huge 5-story hospital. And about a year later, I did. And I was able to get in there, and it became a long-term research site that I was involved with a larger group of people. And it was like an every weekend deal. And one time I had asked one of the people I was working with, can you lock me in this building by myself? And he's like, yeah, we could do that. We'll just leave you in there and we'll go eat or something. And, thinking about it now, I was really wanting to, kind of get to know the building.
Okay.
But I kind of got confronted by its most notorious residents. And I wasn't investigating, It's not like I had all this equipment on me. I was walking through with a flashlight. I was just walking around to just explore.
Yeah, you were exploring, right.
I was exploring, and I made that very obvious when I would go floor to floor. Hi, I know probably know who I am. I'm just here looking around, hello, can you make a noise, that kind of stuff. And it wasn't scary, I mean, it was just like I said, I was going around and getting more familiar with the building. I've seen areas that I hadn't been in, and it was real interesting to see all of the different parts and rooms, and I didn't really think that much about it until I got up to the 4th floor.
Oh, the 4th floor again?
The 4th floor. I know.
Go ahead.
Kind of a pattern here. So I got up, and in that hospital, that floor was utilized for surgery and trauma and the critical. Everybody that died on that floor died up there.
Yep, that's what I was about to say.
In the ER.
Yes.
Yeah. And they had a section cut out where it was tiled off where they did those operations and stuff, the operating room and whatever. And I'm really feeling good about walking through, and I stopped, and I'm looking down, and I'm just talking, hey, if anyone's here, make a noise, do something. And I heard a noise, and it was like right to my right in that operating room. Okay, I heard that, thank you, and I'm still looking down and talking, and I look up, and there's a woman standing in the corner in front of me in the room.
A woman?
And,
oh, God.
It was the only way I can really describe it was like a blurred image of a woman. I could see it was a woman. I saw the long dark hair. I saw the long, what I perceived to be a long white dress.
Okay.
And standing there, and I didn't know what to do.
Because I was about to ask you, was she
remember,
dressed in a hospital gown, but you said she had a long black dress. Okay.
Well, I thought it was, because that's what it, and I'll kind of touch on that in a minute.
Okay.
But I didn't know what to do. I said, hello, I see you there. I'm just here walking around, and I'm kind of nervous just talking. And all of a sudden, this arm reaches up and it starts projecting towards me. And when I say projecting, I mean it's like moving closer. It's not walking.
Oh.
It's just like coming closer. And I felt this like a tidal wave of apprehension and anger and fear, and it was like all the blood ran out of my body. And I just started backing up. And I said, look, I feel like I've upset you, and I'm sorry. I don't mean to trouble you. I'm going to go back the way I came, and I'm going to leave. And I turned around. And
so what you're describing is she's kind of gliding in a way, is what you're saying. She's like going towards you, but not like with a walking motion, like a glide motion.
No, it wasn't even a slide. It was like here, then there.
Oh.
And almost like teleporting, I guess, how you would say it. And I spun around and I started walking, because there's 2 stairwells on each floor, okay?
Okay.
One behind me and one in front of me. And the one in front of me was past her to get over to it, and I wasn't going to risk that. I was already too uncomfortable, and I wasn't doing that. So I turn around and I walk the rest of the way to the floor. I go in the door, and I start going down the stairwell to the basement. That was the bottom floor first that we get out to the ER. So about the time I got to, I'd say, between the 3rd and 2nd floor, approximately, I felt as if someone was riding on my shoulders. This almost like this presence.
Okay.
It wasn't like a pressure, but you could sense something was there. And I felt, I had short hair, and I was wearing like a collared shirt, and I felt this
oh my
cold
God.
air.
What? Oh,
cold air. It wasn't like Arctic, frigid, freezing air, but it was cold, and I could hear it was a woman. It was like a female breathing. And I think to me that was just to say, don't stop, keep going. And that's exactly what I did. I did not stop. I didn't say anything. I didn't acknowledge it. I kept going all the way down until I got to that basement door, and bam, went right out into the basement, and the door slammed behind me. And I stood there, and I had to catch my breath, and I said, what am I doing? I said, that'll probably never happen again. I need to go back up there.
Oh,
and that only lasted a few seconds. I convinced myself that wasn't going to happen. So I said, well, okay, I'll go back out. I'm not going to do anything else. So I turned, and I started walking toward the exit, which is down by the emergency room. And I heard a voice, and it said, come here.
What did it say?
And it said, come here. Come here.
Crap.
Just like that.
Oh.
And so I turned, and the voice was coming from the other hall that was, because, the building's kind of L-shaped. So you've got the main long hallway, and you've got the side hallway.
Right.
Well, in the basement, that side hallway was the morgue. And that's where they did the autopsies, and all of that stuff was on that side hallway. And so, I thought, well, wait a minute. Maybe I'm hearing contamination from outside, because, if people were in the parking lot, you could hear cars, you could hear talking, because people talked normal. And so I'm thinking, I'm just hearing something outside, and I heard it again. And it didn't say, come here. It said, come here, come here. Yeah. And I said, okay, well, I need to look. So I got my light, and I walked all the way down to the hallway. I turned the corner. I went down. Now, keep in mind, the rooms are empty. So there's no closets to hide in. There's no places where somebody could not be seen.
Okay.
All the doors were open. I didn't have to actually, go indoors or anything like that. The only thing that people could even remotely come close to hiding was like a shelf type thing, and people couldn't fit in them because they were drawers.
Okay.
So I established that nobody was there. And I was like, I had to be hearing something. Maybe it was something else. So I got back into the hallway. Well, I heard it again. And it was coming from the ER side of the building. So I'm going, oh, well, maybe it was coming from there. So I did the same thing. I did my walk. I checked the rooms. I went down to the end. Nobody was there. Nothing was there. Then I would hear it back there, and I'd go back there. And I just made these rounds, and after a while, I just got so frustrated, and I knew what was going on, and I let out this loud sigh, just this, frustration. And I heard this.
Oh, you're kidding.
And I
God.
said, I'm done. I'm done. And I went to the door, and I banged on the door, and I got out of that building. So that happened. Months later, my colleague that I worked with there, we later became group colleagues, and we did a lot of things together. We were talking about images and pictures and things that had been captured because it had a 24-hour multi-webcam that you could go online and view at any time.
Okay.
And you could see what was going on. It even had audio hooked up that you could listen to or whatever. And he said, I got some pictures and different things. And, a few other people had sent in because they would watch these all of the time. And, they'd say, oh, this looks like a face and this looks like a hand or whatever. And they would kind of sort you kind of see some of that stuff in there, maybe, possibly. But he showed me a couple of pictures, and he said this was probably some of the best ones that we ever caught. And what it was it was a picture on the second floor, and you could kind of see my colleagues were kind of in the background walking, so they were kind of blurry. But right beside them, there was a perfectly good image of a woman with long dark hair in a hospital gown. Oh. You could see like the back, you could see like everything, and I did not tell them about my experience there. So when I saw that, I was really, that was like confirmation for me.
Right, I was about to say
and,
this is.
That was almost as shaky for me as the experience. And then he showed me another picture, which was in the basement that had it was an infrared camera. But again, you can see this woman in what looks like a dress standing next to them. And that's apparently what she would do. She would just watch people, like the voyeur,
And when you saw her that first time up on the fourth floor, what was it, an operating room or was it a regular room? I mean, even though it sounds like she went all over the place.
Yeah, well, I saw her at the end of the hallway.
Okay.
She was like against the back wall.
Okay.
But I was next. I was right in front of the operating room. It was to my right.
Okay.
So I'd say she was probably, and I'm not good with distance, but I'd say she was a good 25 feet in front of me when I first saw her, because I was almost at the end of the hall, and because, like I said, I was just wandering around. I didn't even make it to the fifth floor, not that night. So, and I didn't want to. I really didn't kind of want to go back in when we did our group thing, but I'm like, you know what? I'm in a group, and I have to worry about it, and of course, nothing happened. At least, nothing like that. So,
no, that's pretty significant. Pretty, yeah.
And there was another photo that was taken. It was of a like a shadow apparition that was really impressive. And I really wanted to put those pictures in the book to show the readers exactly what I had seen.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the quality was too low, and they couldn't see them. But I still have those pictures, and I show people, and they were really shocked when they saw them.
How long had the hospital been closed by the time that you were able to get in there?
From what I dug up, it closed in 1978.
Oh, that long?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It was it's in the middle of a residential neighborhood. It takes up a whole block.
Okay.
So literally all around it, houses.
So this thing had been standing there empty for a really long time then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. And I had talked to people that actually worked in the hospital, and I talked to a woman who was born there, and she told me not only did her father know that the place was haunted, he personally knew the spirit of the woman. He knew the woman that supposedly had haunted it. But I never really got that information, to validate that. And, I've had some psychics come in, and one psychic told me that this woman was very aggressive. She died in childbirth, and her child was taken away, and she's very territorial. And I'm thinking, no kidding. But, and again, I don't know if any of that's true or not. But
right.
That was what she had picked up on, and that was just the most extreme experience. That place was the best site for paranormal activity that I'd ever seen. I saw things there manifest that I've never seen anywhere. A lot of really big, well-known, haunted locations all over the country. But that place, it was like it never, never let you down.
And is it still standing abandoned now, or did they ever do anything with it?
Well, the last time I saw it, it was abandoned. I had a couple people tell me they were going to renovate it, turn it into like a senior center or something. I don't know. Oh. I don't know if that's true, but yeah, it's been sitting there for years. It was a beautiful building. So
that is, but you know what? Hospitals in and of themselves, I think it's just because a lot of people sometimes they transition to death without realizing it. Either, let's say they came in from some type of trauma, they're unconscious, or they're sedated, or either because they're getting operated on, or because they have some type of really heavy pain medication, or they kind of lose that moment of transition. So I know that hospitals are infamous for having a lot of discarnates that sometimes are walking around going, "What happened?" Yeah.
Right. And, plus, too, I mean, some of them pass very quickly. And I don't think that really has time to register, what's going on. And I think it's worse with the insane because they can't understand really, what is going on. And I've had some run-ins with that, too. But, the one thing that we do when we go out is one of the top things we do, I guess, is, try and establish that communication barrier. So, does it always work? No. But I think it's essential that, if we're going to try and get any type of interaction, cooperation, I think that's one of the more important things, that we kind of know, they know why we're there and what we're doing. And we don't mean to impose, which definitely was the case with me there in the hospital at that time, or so I felt. But yeah, so after that, it's just been foot to the gas and been kind of going all over the place.
Right, and I don't know if Logan, if you've come across this, sometimes you have two types. And if we were talking intelligent hauntings, you'll have the ones that they're anxious to communicate, or if you have a sensitive or somebody they can connect with, they want to reach out, and say their story or find out what happened, or hey, where do I go now? And then you have the other ones that the last thing they want is contact. They make themselves scarce. It's almost like they kind of know, or they think, what if I'm told that I got to get out of here? So they kind of those are the ones that sometimes you find either up in attics or cellars or basements or that unused room, because they're really not keen on communicating, or in other words, the letting the cat out of the bag that they're there.
Right. And, I think a lot of that, too, has to do with the individual.
Yes.
A lot of times people are frightened by spiritual activity, and they're like, leave me alone, and, don't bother me, and go away. And so they don't really get a lot of people saying, hey, come talk to me, come interact with me,
Sure.
Who are you? I'm curious, whatever. And then I think part of it, too, is like the people before they had passed. I think a lot of their personality goes along with them in the afterlife.
Oh, sure.
You have people that are born shut-ins, and maybe they're, they have a fear of people or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're going to stay away.
Yes.
So I think it goes into, a lot of different factors. But, every case is different. So, we always try and reach out, though, as best we can. And, it's harder that I've seen kind of in my experience with, like, younger children, that we really kind of get that interaction, especially in a group, because I think that when we're in a group of 3 or 4 or 5, it's kind of intimidating. So a lot of the times I'll kind of break people up, or I'll go by myself or with one other person or whoever. And it tends to work, because it's not as intimidating. And, a lot of it has to do with how you talk, too. So, if you're yelling.
Oh, no, I'm not. I don't think like, that provocation or that, I don't think that's a good idea.
Well, even just as a general tone, I'm like telling them, look, they're dead. They're not deaf. You can talk normal and they'll hear you. And people are like, who's here with us? And I'm like, just, that's kind of a frightening, approach for some people. But like I said, it's different for everybody. And a lot of it has to do with where you are, too. So, and the people that's been there before you. Because a lot of times if people go in and provoke an anger, that's gonna keep them at bay for a while. They're not gonna be as willing to come out, because who's to say we're not gonna insult them and make them do things or whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
So I always try to be respectful and say, I'm not demanding you do anything. I'm just asking. If you're not comfortable, that's fine. Understand. We have multiple ways to communicate with you, and there's been times where I've caught EVP where I didn't have a lot of activity up front.
Hi, everybody. I apologize. I had to cut the interview short. I got this super important phone call. I've got my mom in hospice, and we're taking her from one place to the other, and one of those things that you can't control the timing on. And luckily I was able to get the bulk of the interview with Logan. He was very gracious, and I told him, look, I have to stop the interview right now. I need to take this phone call. So again, guys, I apologize, but it's one of those things you cannot help. Anyway, getting back to the interview, let me tell you something. Both experiences, the one that he had as a kid, forget it. That's like, what? I would have told my mom I'm going to go sleep in the car. Okay, that's incredible. That story in and of itself is like, what? And then the other one that he had, which I'm sure along the way, he's had experiences, but that one where he goes looking for the tiger's tail and he found it when he comes across this lady who apparently had been sighted by other people. So come here. I'm telling you, I've been on dozens and dozens of investigations over the year. And there's some, like I said, that are just, they end up, for lack of a better word, being boring because nothing happens. And maybe you'll catch an EVP in the background, but nothing as significant as actually seeing something, or much less actually hearing something with your ears. Especially something that's saying, come here. Okay. Yeah, see, that's the part where if you're a group, everybody decides to regroup out in the parking lot. Let me tell you something. Hats off to you, Logan. I mean, uh, you're very brave. And by this I say, this is a lot of the times that, when you are paranormal investigation, it's obvious that's what you're going in there for. You're hoping to have that or capture that moment. But don't get me wrong, when you do come across something like that, where you see a full body apparition with a something that follows you down, 4 floors, and then you hear whispering. I'm telling you that. See that right there. That's the pink unicorn of paranormal investigations. Okay, that is what everybody hopes for. But when you get it, it's like, who told me I really wanted this? Only kidding. It is. It's exciting, but it's scary. Okay, and don't let anybody tell you differently, because it is. It does make you catch your breath, despite what you know or understand about the paranormal or prior experiences. Again, and there's different feelings. Sometimes you have encounters with certain entities that they're scary in the sense of, let's face it, you're looking at something that used to be a once living human being. But there's a different feeling. They want to communicate, and you want to communicate, and you want to. And there, see, my dogs are doing their weird thing. And then there's others that when you come across them, they give off a different feeling. And I'm not going to go so far as to say malevolent, but it's almost what I call matter meeting antimatter. Like there's something, your spidey sense is telling you, be careful, be careful, be careful. Okay? And it could be for different reasons. It could be a dark force entity. It could be a human entity that's just nasty, or has unfinished business. It could be a human spirit of somebody that was insane. Okay, because contrary to what a lot of people think, yes, if you have some type of ailment, disease or mental illness or whatever, and you die and you go on into where you're supposed to, you get fixed. You're good. And you'll have a lot of people that'll say when their loved ones have passed on that they had a disease or an illness, that they come back and they see them, they're good. But when that happens and you don't go all the way through and you're stuck in that in-between place, well, then guess what? You still, I would say more than 80% of the time, still carry what was wrong with you. That's like why sometimes you see certain evidence of this person, whether they'll still look gaunt or they'll still look sickly, or in the case of what I'm describing, where you're running across a person that's deceased, that in life they had a severe mental illness. And that's why I'm saying that when you come across apparitions like this, or intelligent hauntings, that your spidey sense is telling you, okay, be careful, be careful, be careful. Because sometimes what they want to do is they want to jump you. They want to jump into you. They want to take over. That's why I'm saying that don't let any paranormal investigator, I don't care how many times you've been out, to say that nothing scares them. They're lying. They're lying. Okay? All you do know how to learn how to do is to hold your ground, or in some cases, believe it or not, retreat. If there's something, and by this I'm not telling you that initial let me get out of here feeling that everybody comes across where you feel right now I'm in imminent danger and I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like that if I stay here something bad is going to happen. And without letting your imagination, and like I said, once you do this for a while, you really know how to differentiate between the feelings of I'm just scared because I'm in a dark, creepy, spooky place that maybe has been abandoned, like this hospital since 1978, versus there's something here that I might see or I might feel or I sense around me that doesn't wish me well. And maybe either I need to go find somebody else that's with me if you're alone, which I don't recommend that. He did it, but I really don't recommend anybody for various reasons. Besides the fact of what you might come across, sometimes you go in some of these places that have been abandoned. Things can happen to you. You can have an accident. Never a good thing to go alone. But yeah. But those were excellent stories. So that book, if he's got that stuff in there, it's got definitely to be worth reading. So guys, thank you so very much for being part of my audience. Again, my true believers, go to miamighostchronicles.com, go to submit your story tab, and let me hear what you've got to talk about. Catch me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I go ahead and I live stream on there. And if you're catching the show on a podcast, which you can find us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podcast, Podbean, or again, you can go to our website, miamighostchronicles.com. You'll find the link to the YouTube show, or you can actually find a link to the podcast MP3 file that you can download. And again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Sometimes it's just easier to download the MP3 file and listen to it when you can or whatever. It's just, sometimes we just have very, what's the word I'm looking for? Quick-paced life, and this is the best way to listen to things. So again, guys, thank you so much. You're all wonderful, and like I said before, I've got some fantastic guests coming on, and I know you're all going to enjoy it. Take care.